Ed Martel here from the OMPT Athletic Institute. Just sitting here at home. I'm actually watching my son this weekend because my wife's away at a wedding with the other kids. And today we had a meeting with our internet social media expert, and while we were going through a lot of the ways to try and maximize what we're going to come up with, our online program is going to be available soon, 12-week corrective exercise, phase-specific throwing, and when we were going through the internet responses to what we've done so far, it just struck me as odd that there's so many people that are so contentiously arguing the weighted balls and the underloading and the overloading, and it seems to me that there's just too many variables that need to be considered when working with underloading or overloading. I've seen overload studies that show that there's a decrease in shoulder abduction and flexion, which limits your amount of external rotation. Now, I've seen overload studies that show that, yeah, the elbow's going to be further in, but of course, your body's going to do something automatically to try and protect itself. So if you lift a 15-pound weight off the floor, you can do it this way. If you lift a 70-pound weight off the floor, you're going to bring it closer to your center of rotation. I've seen underload studies that show that there's increased valgus stress and increased external rotation load off the mound. Well, yeah, there could potentially be, but where is it in relation to, where their shoulder flexion or shoulder abduction is? If there's an arbitrary way that an underload or an overload ball could potentially lead to effective biomechanical repositioning that makes you more efficient, I haven't seen it. So it all boils down to education. If you understand what an athlete looks like and how to actually identify where their limitations are, where their specific flexibility deficits or where their stability deficits are, and what pathway their body moves through, then you can identify what's biomechanically efficient. And it's not the same for every athlete, which is why sometimes weighted balls can be catastrophic, and sometimes weighted balls can lead to an arbitrary change that might be considered beneficial. They don't make you throw harder. I know there's people that are going to go crazy about that, but they don't. The body's physiological limits are intrinsic. You're born with the amount of high twitch fiber that you have. So it seems strange to me that you're going to sit there and use all of these things that could potentially be hazardous or potentially lead to inefficiency instead of working on the thing that needs to be most focused on, which is training the body to have more ability to acquire the throwing positions with more flexibility, more usable length, more sarcomeres in series, active usable joint flexibility and joint stability, which is the whole point behind a corrective exercise program that's strategic for the throwing motion. I've seen all the different programs, and I'm amazed that some athletes are going to benefit from it, but the whole point of what we're trying to do is to try and take what I known from my own clinical experience and as well as my own professional playing experience and put that into something that actually could help athletes continually. You need to know biomechanical efficiency. You need to know the implications of bad arm positioning in the throwing motion. And you also need to know efficiency. You need to know lever arms. You need to know how the body uses the ground reaction force, how energy is transferred up the kinematic chain. And people talk about it. I hear all these, they say using the ground, the energy comes from the ground up. Yeah, that's true, but what are you doing to maximize that? I don't know. So what it boils down to is, are you in an environment where people truly understand the consequences as well as the benefits of an exercise program that's designed to allow an athlete to use their body better, and whether or not they understand mechanics from the perspective of, could that potentially be hazardous for an athlete? I've seen athletes that throw horribly that have never been injured. I've seen athletes that I'm looking at them, I'm like, okay, that could be improved, but that's the way they've learned their whole life, so that's what's right for them. The body moves through the pathway of least resistance. If you can alter that resistance pattern so that they can become better at performing the task, you have the potential of helping them. Truly, it boils down to how hard they want to work on it. So it just seems odd to me that there's so much effort and so much vested interest in something that's never been proven to work, but could be hazardous to you, which is why I haven't advocated the weighted balls. I haven't seen someone arbitrarily get better and become more biomechanically efficient using them. I haven't seen anyone instruct them and understand the implications of of what that could do to be hazardous to an athlete or what that could do to benefit an athlete. I mean, if you're going to take a stance, take a stance. In the end, it boils down to what's the preferred thing to do. Train them off a mound, train them in the environment that they're going to be expected to perform in, and maximize what can happen in that environment, which is why we created the program. So it's just interesting to me, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. And like I said earlier, we're in the final stages of promoting of producing our online program, and I really look forward to what people have to say about it. I'm interested to see how these people are going to react to what we're doing, because I haven't seen it, and that's why I created it, and we look forward to it being online soon.